Senator Coates.
Well, Madam Chairman, thank you. I'm obviously very late and delinquent in getting here in time. I do want you to know I read both your testimonies. I appreciate very much the contributions that you've made to our thinking on how to go forward with this, particularly the differentiation that between the less skilled and the more skilled. Obviously, we don't want to be a country that simply gives a test and the highest ranking on the test results are the ones we admit. On the other hand, you make, I think, compelling cases for better understanding where our needs are and how we address those needs. Clearly, the technical skills, the skills that many of our businesses now are asking for that require levels of education and levels of training that in the past weren't as necessary, are important that we adjust, I believe, our quotas appropriatly. On the other hand, I think there still is room in this country, there certainly is in my state, for people starting at a lower rung of the ladder and having the opportunity through that start to move up, particularly following generations. I mean, the story of America is immigrants coming and working below their skills, but with the goal of opening the door for their children and following generations to gain the education and gain the skills necessary to make measurable contributions to America. So I'm wondering, I guess my only question to you basically is, could each of you just sort of reflect on what I've said, and I apologize if you've already discussed that, but particularly that sort of two-tier thought process in terms of what we need to grow our economy, where we want to be open to the level of immigration that brings people at the lower skills level but gives them that opportunity to move forward. Let me just give you one example. We do a lot of processing in our state, and that's not a desired business for many people. And my employers there have said it's almost impossible, even though we have unemployment problems, almost impossible to hire Americans to do some of these jobs. And yet people that come from other countries are better able to handle the truly difficult work of some of the processing that takes place. And without them, they're in a quandary. So that's just one example, but I hear that from a number of people, and I wonder if either one of you could comment on that.
So my in-laws live in Greencastle, Indiana, so I see that there. Absolutely, a lot of processing jobs. And so I think that the way to think about employers and the economy's need for low-skilled immigrants, it exists, I believe, and the best way to maximize the economic contributions of low-skilled immigrants, I think, is to primarily admit them when they have a job offer from a U.S. employer instead of on the basis of family ties. And then, returning to an earlier question, to give them sort of a provisional pathway toward getting to remain here permanently, that if they can come if they have a job offer, and perhaps we have a certain number of those job offers that can be made every year in aggregate, and then if they stay here, pay taxes, contribute after a certain number of years, then they can apply for permanent residence and get it and bring in their family members and so on. And so I think that would be a way to maximize the economic contribution while also allowing employers to hire the workers that they need.
Thank you.
Well, I would say, as you probably know, we have a record number of people not working who are less educated right now. If you look at people who have no education beyond high school and are 18 to 65, we have about 27 million American citizens not working, 5-6 million more than we had just a few years ago. Real wages for those workers are down 10 to 22% in inflation-adjusted terms. And I don't know if you were here before, but we talked about meat and poultry processing, where real wages are down 45% since 1980. And relative to more educated workers, they're down even more. In other words, the relative wage decline is even more dramatic. If you have a superabundance of less educated people, and if you find real wage decline decade after decade, it is very hard to say that we have a shortage. What it looks more like is employers are just used to paying much lower than they used to. They like that, and they'd like to have Congress keep the flow coming, whether it's guest workers or have a lax legal immigration system. But I would say that if we don't get the less educated, all these young people who don't go on to college, who are not working right now, back into the labor market, the consequences of that moving forward will be enormous, because we know that if you don't work when you're young, say between 16 and 24, and you don't go on to college, the chance of you working later in life is much less. You earn less. You just don't learn the skills necessary to function in the labor market. And that sociological phenomenon is very troubling.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I've over my time already. Thank you.